everybody. Thank you for bearing with us through our tech delays. Hopefully we no longer sound like robots, and we can continue on with this pretty good series that we've had going on so far today. Arcadia, undefeated, haven't dropped a map up until Watchpoint Gibraltar. As we just saw, the Delaware Blue Hens have really put up a fight today, and imagine ties our series up at one apiece.
As it has just been a slugfest back and forth. One team been great on dive, the other team been great on rush. Push is going to be our third map type, and the thing is, thinking about the push maps, we know there's Coliseum, we know there's New Queen Street, we know there is Esperanza, and there is Rinasapi. I feel like if you're the side of Delaware and you want to pay more dive, you got to get Coliseum out of the way. That is not very much so that kind of map, but it does not look like they went that direction because we're actually going to go to Coliseum.
Wow, they really just flipped the script on you there, huh? Yeah, Coliseum. We are going to go to the...
They banned Rinasapi, interesting.
Yeah, Rinasapi has been more Orisa leading. You know, honestly, with how these maps have been played out as late, Winston can be played on many of them. Orisa's just the stronger pick. So, if anything, this is the lesser of two evils, if you want to really think about it. There's just not a chance to run any form of dive. If you do, I'd applaud you for it, but I'd also call you insane at the same time. Arcadia want to go back to this Orisa and or Reinhardt that Racer has just really looked really confident in. Pip and Aruda, for the most part, I felt like have gotten the better of Syrup and Carter so far, at least in terms of consistency. Arcadia have been banking on that to be their win con, especially put somebody like Finlay back on a Lucio, perchance you can play with the speed advantage. This is more the Arcadia that we saw in map number 1 that really started to shut the doors on Delaware.
Especially with the changes that we've seen to Coliseum, I do give a little bit of cadence to Delaware being able to play some of the stuff that they want to play, but as we load up, both teams are going to go over to the Orisa. The interesting thing is Delaware is set on the duo supports that we're used to the most with the Orisa, which is the Juno Brig. Arcadia looking to play the Ana, which I don't think is necessarily bad. Your support line is just a lot more squishy, and they probably are playing the Ana in order to enhance the Genji play for Aruda.
The difference here is Arcadia isn't looking to brawl, especially with Pip being on the Widowmaker.
Yeah.
You're in this for the poke game. You don't want to get up close and personal, which is what Delaware are looking to do with Jay being on that hero. However, your Pip just got kebabbed from across the way. Bit of a rough start for Arcadia. You have to admit the Bionade slows down the tempo slightly, and not nearly enough to start a full-fledged battle cattle from charging straight on in. Ideal, forcing these players back. Arcadia mostly in a safe position to prevent staggering.
It was great opening Sojourn. When you're playing this brawl, you need to look to use those Juno rings to get in very quickly and look to isolate.
This is an immediate swap too. Like, the Sojourn is very good on this part of the map. Pip has looked great on the Sojourn. Or actually, no, first time Pip is playing the Sojourns. Aruda has played it so far. Now swapping with the Genji. I mean, these CPS players have had so much flexibility on their side so far and have looked strong in both ways. But I think it was actually the Maywall of Carter that didn't exactly help Ideal in that setting. And Arcadia managed to do a little bit more damage to Delaware than what was done to them earlier.
As Arcadia did a great job of, yes, we lost a couple people very quickly. Let's just back up and look to re-engage quickly before they gain too much meterage, and they did a very good job. The poke works very good in those situations where you all fall back and you're looking to re-engage, because then Arcadia doesn't have the spacing they want. I mean, Delaware.
Yeah. Well, Delaware does have an orbital ray. Well, there it goes, actually. A little bit of a soft reset, flip of the tables, as you can see, but then like only one elimination, and to that of Syrup. So even though Delaware are the ones walking away with the payload, they certainly do not have the numbers advantage, and Pip wants to keep it that way. Goes up close and personal with Mako, give him a personal execution, and Arcadia have this robot turn right back around.
And Arcadia's doing a great job of ult conservation. I mean, Carter's has gone over to the Venture. Arcadia only used the overclock in that fight. So you have a Nanoblade you could use, you have an Orbital Ray. Delaware is just in shambles at this point.
Yeah, Delaware, you're about to get this first checkpoint tapped, and that's not great. I mean, Arcadia, they don't want to push under the bridge. They want to fight at this corner with this massive ultimate advantage that you have. Carter, you can't do much on the Venture. You need to be flanking in and out of these little pillars of the Coliseum, and there's just not anything that a Venture can do with this map architecture, especially against Aruta's Nanoblade. That was a nice whip shot and a coach gun combined. The CC all landing onto the Nanoblade. I've never seen it get shut down so hard without any damage done. Wonderful counterplay out of Delaware Varsity, and they're ready to march right back in with Jay's rally of their own. Saving Joe, responding with the orbital ray. I mean, that was just simply too good. If you can't match it, you have no choice but to run, and Ideal was already way too far in for that to be a possibility.
Yeah, I was literally gonna say, yeah, your Nanoblade didn't get anything, but you could just re-engage with the orbital ray, and they did exactly that. Syrup getting the pick on the Pip makes things interesting because of how close the spawns are. Arcadia is going to be in a 4v5, especially with the touch.
Yeah, they get the touch, but Ideal just has to chuck themselves at the payload to do so. Doesn't have the entire team back yet, and actually ends up getting split from them. Arcadia tried to do the thing where they just chase down the rest of the team, but finds themselves caught in Carter's crosshairs as a result. I like the ambition. I saw the vision. You just can't fight Carter in close corridors.
I can just see a picture of you just looking up to the stars. I saw the vision, but
I did.
but it just wasn't there. And the best part about that was it wasn't a huge ult commit from Delaware, so they can re-engage here, and they made sure the checkpoint didn't happen. So that's the biggest victory for Delaware.
And now you can start moving down to this opposite corner. The unfortunate part for Arcadia, though, you use most of your tools already. You got a Terra Surge, and that's about it. Syrup's Bob can be tucked to the back line, and that buys so much space for Delaware. You have to move it early, and that's a Bionade comboed up with Razor. There's only so many ways that Arcadia could win this, and that's just one of the very few one of them. It's like that Doctor Strange moment. You looked at 14 million futures, and that's the one way that it can go well. Delaware Varsity at least will hold on to their orbital array, but unfortunately aren't going to get much more progress.
Yeah, and because of the trading of the picks and the amount of damage they got onto Racer, they couldn't just afford to get aggressive and get this cart moving. They had to wait. The one consolation you get if you're Delaware, yeah, you popped in both your DPS levels, but you kept the orbital ray because Saving Joe's going to have that, so you have it to match, but you're still facing down the basically the opening of 4 ults from Arcadia.
It's not going to be pretty. You might get punched in the face a little bit. We saw how well Delaware handled Aruta's Dragon Blade last time. Surely they can manage to do that again, especially for the ones that pull the trigger first and make sure the nano isn't a factor. Delaware, for the first time, actually will be the ones to deal with that first blow. It's always been Arcadia setting that tone, but Blue Hands clearly have had enough of that.
It did cost them their orbital ray, so they got aggressive with it, which is good, and they're going to get a lot of distance from it. But now,
that's
you know,
huge.
it gets the advantage in the next fight. But these late staggers are
Huge.
great.
And that was Pip's overclock too. He popped it, hoping to deter Ideal, but Eraser was already dead. It didn't matter. Delaware are just going to cap the point off of that. A series of misplays from Arcadia, but no, it's Aruta. One has to go in, doesn't really have a choice. The Nanoblade takes like 7 slashes, but eventually you chunk through Ideal, and oh, this is a nail-biter of a push map so far. Neither team has grabbed the checkpoint. Neither team will do so within this next minute.
Nanoblade used their Pip did swap over to the Cassie, and you kept your orbital ray. That's the big issue coming in this next fight, because you know it's going to break out before the checkpoint gets capped. But the orbital ray is so powerful, it might just buy Arcadia this checkpoint. So Delaware's going to have to be ready. I feel like you have to pop that rally early before, I mean, basically as soon as you're expecting that orbital ray.
Yeah, if you want to get that overhealth up as fast as you can, but it's just so hard to predict. I mean, Delaware can easily just go in early. It's just safer to pop it as is, and thankfully Jay will get the job done. Keeps both the Ash and Mako nice and healthy. That's Arcadia's big advantage, kind of done and dealt with. Rarely have we seen that so far. Now it's Ideal sending it into the back line, even trades a DPS and a support down on either end, just a matter of who has more health going into this. And right now, it seems like that is a Racer. Not going to last long, though. Mako has returned orbital ray, should Delaware need it, which they certainly do not. And that'll be this payload flipped around once again. The robot's got to be getting dizzy at this point.
As again, it's going to take another fight for Delaware to be able to secure this point, but once again, they're the ones in the driver's seat with the Orbital Ray. Not only that, I mean, you can basically pick your poison at this point. You have Orbital Ray or you have Blizzard. Both of them should get you this point. There shouldn't be a scenario where you need to use both. You need to get away with just using one because you need to apply the pressure. You need to win this fight and get some more distance.
Oh, Pip's in trouble too. He was hit with a sleep dart from downtown. Some healing came in last second. They'll keep them alive, but this is the thing. Delaware always wait too long. They have the resources, right? They had all the answers. Sure, this was their fight to win. And it's just Aruda in the back line who just slices them all in half before they can even do anything.
Exactly. That's been the thing for Delaware. They had the one fight where they got aggressive and made it work, and that's where they almost capped the point. We have to see that again. We're in the final 2 minutes of this, and both, I mean, this could go either way, Tiny.
This is so insanely close. Whoever tapped this checkpoint first will, I honestly win it at this point. It's ideal. Gets that little toe in last second. It'll be a Deadeye and a Nanoblade here. It ain't looking too hot for the Blue Hens. You have to admit, all that ultimate advantage that they had has since been negated. Ideal and Syrup doing what they can to trade these players out. You just took too many blows to recover. And with that checkpoint hit, I don't think Delaware's had much of a chance.
I mean, it's so close right now, especially, I mean, you did use the Blizzard and the Bob there.
Oh, that's huge.
You get Finlay down, and you're in a position where you have to back out if you're ideal. So, really, it is essentially, 1 to 2 fight territory, depending on how quick it takes Arcadia to re-engage. If you get aggressive with this Orbital Ray, you give yourself a nice chance with just a minute left on the clock.
I mean, it's not gonna be. Arcadia just respawns. They didn't. 4 spawns haven't been canceled yet, mind you. So if for somehow Arcadia win this fight, which they're already off to a great start of doing, the spawns are right there. The overray from Mako at least helps run over Racer. Now the spawns are canceled, and Delaware can push forwards at will. Should get themselves close to the checkpoint, if not getting it.
Yeah, it should get them the checkpoint. The question is, with 12 meters essentially separating these teams, Saving Joe could come back in with the Orbital Ray. You gotta hope that you get something good with this now. They're gonna touch and deny the point.
I think they got the point. The point was capped. It's just in the butt scratch phase. This entire fight will decide who will go up onto match point here. And I see an Orbital Ray and a Terror Surge combo in a very small room. Ideal is anteed up the trade for Finlay and Tracer. But having no heals here is really going to hurt in the long run. The Nano boosted Eraser is just simply too powerful to put down easily. Arcadia very strong on their feet. Ideal has no health remaining, and it's Arcadia who managed to sneak themselves back on top, and the series along with it, now up to match point.
And it came down to 6 meters. That's how close these teams are. And again, this is a map where you thought you would favor the side of Arcadia, given this is more of a brawl-centric map. So all things considered, Delaware have made this pretty dang close. The issue we're facing is, I believe the next map type is going to be Flashpoint, Tiny. And I don't know about you, but I don't really think, Dive is that great on Flashpoint.
Here's the thing, Ray. I don't even think this is a compositional thing at this point. Like, that was a really close map. I'm literally steering multiple fights over where Aruda is literally just soloing the backline. Like, maybe there's a nade from Finlay chucked in there. Shout out to them. Now playing the Ana. I think Arcadia has played pretty much each other's roles at some point today, which is ridiculous to think about. But Arcadia should not just be getting away with murder when Delaware have a massive ult advantage. That happened on 2 separate occasions, and just with how much more consistent the DPS looked in the neutral. Like, I'm seeing some serious differences in the pacing and the demand, rather, that Arcadia are putting on the series. It feels like that they're in the driver's seat. Delaware are coming back in fights based off of their own mechanical skill, but they're always starting them at a disadvantage.
I mean, we did think that after map number 1, and they were able to strike back to Delaware on map number 2. So I will not put anything back. This has been a very tight, very contested series. So I think it could go either way, no matter what. So Flashpoint, I think there's only 2 maps. It's Saravasa or it's New Queens, New Junk City. So I think, you're banned. You get to ban if you're Arcadia. So essentially, you get to pick. My guess would be if you want to play more of the Brawl, I think it's a little bit stronger on New Junk City. So that would be my guess is where we're headed.
Yeah, well, it is Delaware's pick. So
Oh, it's Delaware's pick? Then I would expect Saravasa.
Yeah. So probably, and honestly, the Flashpoint maps feel so similar. Like, with the exception of, like, Ducks and Refinery, it just seems like that the points play relatively the same in a lot of ways. And it doesn't really feel that there's as much of as a difference if you're going to pick one over the other. Just go for the sake of comfort at this point. The compositions, you know, you're not changing anything up. Maybe some slight differences within that DPS line. For Delaware, it doesn't seem that they can really settle on what Carter should be playing. I think Carter swapped heroes like 3 or 4 different times on the Venture, was on Mei, Genji at some point, like, just kind of all over the place. Couldn't find a comfortable spot, and that's been a common theme throughout the maps today, where Carter will just have these great moments of pop-off, and then will just be pretty silent throughout the rest of it.
We're going to have to see if Delaware and Carter can string together a little bit more consistency, as we're still waiting on that flashpoint choice from these teams, which it's a big decision for Delaware given they're facing, you know, losing this series if they can't pull it together on this map. So they have to bring it together and get us to a map number 5. So we know, which the good thing is for them, when we get to hybrid, if you can get to hybrid maps are a lot more dive favored. So I think they look pretty good in those situations because the only Brawl hybrid map really is King's Row. So you just ban that map if you're Delaware, and then you're forcing Arcadia to pick between like New Bonnie, and you're forcing them to pick between Blizzard World, Eichenwald. So it's like those maps are going to favor the compositions that Delaware wants to play.
I just don't think it's a I just see Delaware get walked over for no reason. Like, they're just letting Arcadia act first. They're taking so long to decide what they want to do that Arcadia is already in their backlines before anything can be done about it. Like, who wants to get walked on like that? Like, I certainly hope you don't.
Okay, yes, I agree, but the Blue Hens looked a lot more confident and more engaging in the dive. They were a lot more aggressive. Carter was on the Echo for that attack that they ended up winning, and they were just going, and even Carter on the Tracer was very aggressive in the dive. I think they just feel more comfortable and feel more willing and know what kind of decisions they want to make in dive.
Entirely possible, yeah. Arcadia just seemed to warm up a lot more as the series has gone on. And Delaware, they gotta switch something up. Something tempo-wise just isn't clicking the way it needs to. And if what Ideal thinks the answer is Junker Queen, go for it. You want to pick up the pace, swing an axe, throw a knife at a bunch of people, just the hero that you're looking for.
Which the interesting part of the composition they're looking to play with this Junker Queen, which is totally fine. I mean, they're doing Juno Kiri. My guess is they kind of expected the Kiri because, you know, Arcadia has been doing a great job playing the Ana, especially with their Genji. So having that cleanse is very strong, but Arcadia is not looking to do that this time. They are on the Brig Juno this time around.
Okay, back to this Brig Juno. Brig Kiri, though, for Delaware. Don't hate that. I think with the Junker Queen, you don't really want anyone that's a sitting duck for Arcadia to walk at, and the only thing that you're suffering, you're just at the mercy of Racer CC, the Javelin spin, getting skewered by a Javelin. Anything that's Javelin related is not going to be fun for Delaware Varsity. You got to sit back and let Syrup just work his magic as his first pick on the pit. Very similar to what we saw at the tail beginning of this series in Delaware Varsity, using that as a similar win con. You just can't get close enough. Arcadia want to poke. They don't want to brawl, and Ideal can't get any value as a result.
Exactly. That's the thing with the Junker Queen, is it basically predicates on you needing to get in the face and getting these Dracy knives, getting these carnages, basically everything. And they're finally able to do that.
It really was off the back that pick from Syrup, right? If he didn't get that, there was just not a chance for you to move forwards at all, and that does scare you for the future at this point. Delaware, they just don't have the poke to match this, nor the healing necessarily. Racer just popped like a balloon, though, and that is the best case scenario. Syrup and Carter are really putting in that work. We were just talking about how this DPS line has struggled with consistency so far. They've looked great, but as I say that, Pip just gets in there and slices 3 of them to pieces. What has gotten into him? It's like he just hears me say something nice about the Blue Heads wants us to talk about him instead.
That was actually crazy because Mako threw in that orbital ray. They got Racer very quickly. And Saving Joe used the orbital ray. I thought that was very perplexing decision, but it allowed Pip to basically pop off and get everything they needed. The big issue you're facing is I think this Kitsune Rush could be a problem because it's a great utility tool to basically ensure that Delaware can get in and force a brawl.
You can get in, sure, but I'm just seeing a Dragon Blade, a rally. None of these things look fun, especially when you're all yoinked together, courtesy of a Racer. They're just sending into the backline. Delaware Varsity, yeah, you're going to get the brawl you want, but it's with Arcadia running at you. It's forcing that pace, forcing that tempo, and just blatantly ignoring Ideal. If Delaware want to win this, they're likely going to have to commit a rampage, which I know you absolutely do not want to have happen. It only hits onto Saving Joe, who has plenty of health, to go ahead and tank that. Aruna now pops the ults, and so does Carter. This is a scrap fest if I've ever seen one, but it's a tank against the world right now, and if I've seen anything, tanks win that 9 times out of 10. You simply have too much health. The reinforcements from Delaware are relatively strong, and we're just going to stick with this really scrappy fight. This is a common theme from what we've seen throughout today, and if there's one spot that Delaware have done well in, it's been in this scrap with Syrup. It's not necessarily on the Tracer, but making these eliminations happen.
If they get any exit picks, Tiny, it is going to look really bad for the side of Arcadia. They did a great job of getting out of there, and they get to re-engage with the orbital ray, so huge advantage for this engage from Arcadia.
Well, we got touching from Arcadia and an unmatched orbital ray. Someone's got to be done about it. And it's Syrup getting Aruna. That's the main source of damage that Arcadia often bank on to get those eliminations completely obliterated. And Delaware now have a way to get themselves back onto this point. And it's Carter moving ever so quickly with Syrup and Ideal on their sides. The Terror Surge from Racer getting little to nothing done as this DPS line from the Blue Hens has seriously come alive here on Suramasa.
This is kind of what you were calling for, Tiny. They're responding to the call that you made to them. And the interesting part is this is not normally, the Tracer Genji with Junker Queen. It's just so high flying, so fast. Arcadia's just having to look in so many different directions. And in this case, it feels like the Orisa. It feels more like you're just kind of a big sitting like HP farm, like ult farm, basically.
That's literally how it has been, and that's the hard part. If Delaware can actually manage to close that gap, right? Razor can't do too incredibly much about it if you're not using your cooldowns wisely. Thankfully, Orisa relatively simple in terms of cooldown usage and has done a decent job at that so far. You don't have the speed to match. You don't have this engage and disengage tempo, especially after switching off the Juno and losing Finlay. Racer still attempting to engage on this, understanding there's not really a way out. Delaware are making sure of it, that they're going out, that's for sure, but 6 feet under the ground.
It feels like, you're going to the Kiri Juno to have a little bit more sustain, so even if they get into your face with the speed, that you might have the utility to be able to survive, but it just haven't worked so far, especially when you're allowing your supports to get picked off first in these fights. That's a big no-no, and it's just allowing Delaware to farm these ults. Carter can look to get aggressive with the Blade, or they can use this Orbital Ray, because that's one of the most big-time ults in this game right now is Orbital Ray, and now you don't have that on your field for Arcadia.
I think this point's just cooked, honestly, and Delaware have 3 massive ults. I'm not a fan of this Brig. Kiri, you have no speed engage. You have no way to get out. You're just trying to survive. Like, that is it. That's never really a good look for a team that has been dictating the tempo pretty much the entire series so far. It shows that they're struggling, that they're looking for an answer, and this certainly ain't it. Pip got at least one, shut down the rampage, as a matter of fact. Arcadia are doing what they do best, and it is sustain and keep living as long as they can. That's the only purpose of this composition, and it somehow manages to work out by none other than Finlay.
3 ults committed from Arcadia, and Pip is now swapped over to the Rock Muncher. The one thing, Delaware held onto their Orbital Ray so they can look to re-engage in this next fight with that tool, and that should be enough to win you this. Like, it's going to be able to outlast this rally that Finlay has as long as Delaware places it and uses it well.
Yeah, I do. This is looking for an engage. you don't have much. Arcadia have to zone, and that's what they do. Mako doesn't respect it, and will pay the price of their life for that. Arcadia can just rush on forwards, a point that, mind you, Ray, I was just saying should be over, and I genuinely think Delaware should have won that. Arcadia just found their second win in the most unconventional way possible.
Yeah, and in that last second pick to Syrup might have just been the stamp of approval in this situation. I don't know if I mean, Ideal's gonna go over to the Doomfist. They're gonna look to touch. I don't like this tiny Doomfist. Kinda not good into the Orisa.
Nope, it's literally just to touch. I would hope. I'm hoping. I mean, you'll get there, that's for sure. Carter on the new Sombra didn't really have a chance to show us what the new Sombra looks like, and Arcadia are just gonna come right back and take this point, which is just insane in my eyes from considering how Garden started.
Yeah, the Kiri Ana is definitely the better support if you want to play the Kiri to deal with the enemy Ana. The Brig just doesn't bring a whole lot with the Kiri at the side. So you put yourself now where we're going over to the Ruins map. Carter's now swapped over to the May, which, again, these teams are going to be playing at a little bit slower of a tempo now, and you're playing Cassidy Venture and Cassidy May. So really, Carter, who's showed a lot of promise on the May, these walls have to be picture perfect.
Yeah, honestly, I don't think we've seen Carter May find much success so far, so it's time for improvements, Carter. You've looked great so far throughout this map. Keep it up with the May. They'll have Ace Juno. Is the difference. You got speed. The other team does not, except for this Kitsune Rush ult right now. Syrup just got bullied off the map thanks to Pip. Wonderful way to shut down that Deadeye. Pip being on the Venture on a very close quarters point is just really the Rock Muncher's playground if you think about it. Arcadia have so many DPS tools to pull out, and it's just too much for the tank to handle. Fortify, a strong ability, yes, but not strong enough to deal with an entire team. Unless you pop Terra Surge here, Ideal, a one-man army, did a ton in that fight. Got 61% from Delaware, and it doesn't even seem that Arcadia can fully close this out.
They definitely can. Is if you're Aruda, you kind of got to get out of dodge for at least a minute, and it allows Delaware to come back and re-engage on this point.
Racer's taking it nice and slow. There's no tank from Delaware. You don't really want to rush things and bite off more than you can chew, which I appreciate. Carter almost at a blizzard. Same goes for Mako with their own ultimates. Bionade into the back forces the ice block and preventing any further aggression. The orbital ray do just that, and Pip damage boosted at will. Doesn't have any cooldowns though, and that's a major problem. Wanted to see Carter step it up on the May, and he's done just that here on this point of Ruins.
As things are evened up, and you didn't have to use the Blizzard there. Orbital Ray was the kiss of death and the seal of approval to be able to get that done. One final chance for Arcadia to try and bring the momentum continued in their favor, but I think it's going to be tough when you're facing a Blizzard, and I mean, that Ana could just be an easy target.
Easy pickings now for Arcadia. I mean, they have to keep their players safe, but can you even get to the objective is the question. The Blizzard doesn't grab any, but Ruda trade out for the DPS. Pip is back in, playing with the Kitsune Rush. Those cooldowns are going to hurt even more. Now with the extra damage, it's once again Ideal stepping it up. Triple kill for the Orisa, and that's about all you need. Strong, stable pillar for Delaware's varsity team as they're looking to go ahead and push us to a map 5 here with one more point.
And Tiny, you got out both the Kitsune Rush and the Pulse Bomb, and all it took was your Blizzard. So that's you could not ask for more. If you're Delaware, puts them in a position where they have a rally for defensive capabilities, and then they can look to get aggressive with either Terra Surge or the High Noon in the next fight. The only thing I have to really worry about is Pip, who will have the Tectonic Shock, but I mean, I don't think that's anything you're like super worried about.
Nah, it's not too scary of an ultimate. You have to do so many things right to actually get value out, so Arcadia certainly not banking on it, but Pip in the neutral is another story. Pip has got to be like the neutral king or something. He's just found so much value out of whatever the hero he's been on before these fights necessarily get into the nitty-gritty. There was a trade out, but Arcadia have captured a percentage going.
That they do, but they are able to get back onto this point and apply pressure, especially with a great May wall.
Huge! That blocked Aruda's escape entirely from Syrup's Deadeye. Ooh, That was a great one from Carter. Has been far and few between so far, but Suravosa, really ever since Delaware got put down onto match point, Carter has made it his mission to come up big.
And again, this is very good use of the economy from Delaware. All that fight took them was a great Maywall and high noon. They didn't have to commit a whole lot.
Ooh, but the problem is, like, it's always Arcadia to come up with the first blow, more often than not. And that time it was Aruta's Pulse Bomb. Trying to bank out the Orisa. It was Ideal who actually stepped back in to the Terra Surge. Has to use one of their own in order to stay alive. And that's where a Terra, or a Tectonic Shock can be a bit more scary, is when they're all on the ground, piled up in one spot, in Delaware Varsity on the losing end of that draw.
And that was a very, 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 very expensive fight for Delaware. They threw in 4 ults to that fight, and Arcadia did the smart thing. They used the ults they had, but they were able to bank the orbital ray. So really, this next fight is likely to be the last one for this point, and Arcadia can just win it with the press of a button.
Yeah, it's not going to be that simple, though. Delaware, even though they're at a disadvantage, Syrup, too, has been finding plenty of first eliminations. If he can manage to catch someone on Arcadia out of position or just force this orbital ray earlier, I'd say great, but it's Aruda who strikes again. He's always doing something on this Tracer, and because there's not something to necessarily contest him, he has free range over these flanking angles, and Arcadia use that to their advantage on Palace and Ray. Only fitting that we go all 5 points.
Couldn't agree with you more. Getting Syrup down early in those fights was the key for them being able to win that fight decisively quickly, because you said there wasn't anyone to really check Aruda, and the only check to Aruda would be Syrup. So very well played. They knew what their win condition was, and they played to it very well.
And they're on the last point of Temple, though. Pit barely got himself into the ground there. At least he's alive for now, and Delaware Varsity slowly rebuilding that ult bank that they drained at the mid of that last Palace point. Arcadia, though, same for them. Aruda already, another Pulse Bomb, was looking for it. Finds a bit of a wall. I get it. Sometimes the architecture can be a little frustrating. Want to blow it up. Fortunately, not the case for Arcadia. They lose out on Finlay. Pip into the backline, just massive chunks of damage. That's where this ultimate is terrifying at best. Huge burst of the earth broke underneath Delaware's feet, and it'll be Arcadia with first tap.
Huge plays coming out as we're already getting off the Rock Muncher, as Pip's gonna go over to the Ash now. So you're not gonna have to deal with that Tectonic Shock anymore if you're Delaware. And Delaware's got a lot of good re-engage tools. They just got, I feel like you got to win this quickly, and you only want to use like 1 ult here, maybe 2.
Aruda's in a great position, just keep peppering down the supports, making sure they can't follow up with that kind of Terra Surge damage. Even though Delaware, again, have the ultimate advantage, they end up expending 3 almost simultaneously just to get themselves back onto this objective. Not the end of the world, though. Arcadia does use 3 of their own, and it's Aruda's Pulse Bomb that's getting put down. I wonder if we're going to see any swaps after that.
That's the big thing, was if you're going to use a lot of ults, you got to get a lot of ults out of the other team, and they did. So now we're really going to get Orbital Ray versus Orbital Ray, and Delaware being, you know, in like the defensive position. They can look where Arcadia is coming from and look to use this aggressively. So again, it's just going to come down to who makes the play first, and we kind of talked about Arcadia has been the one to do that, so I'd be a little worried if I'm Delaware.
Delaware, again, did take initiative in that previous fight, kind of. They at least zoned out the flankers before they walked in. With the Orbital Ray now, it's a massive Bionade too, but it's all Finlay who made the difference from the grave. He's the only one who died. He's the one who gave Arcadia the win condition. Once again, Delaware lose on a fight that it looked great from their positioning starting.
Carter going to go over to the Tracer so they can ensure they're going to have a touch no matter what. Pip has the Bob to throw on to this point. The only 2 close to ults for Delaware are Syrup and Ideal. The question is, can they keep these fights going on long enough to build up to these ults?
But Pip's on the flank. The Bob is going to completely cut Mako off from the rest of the team. Pip, though, is cut down at the tail end of it, but it just seems like it's too little too late. The positioning of the Bob, there's nowhere for Delaware to run but forwards into the clutches of Racer and Aruda. Arcadia remain undefeated within their NECC season and will move up to 5-0.
As they looked extremely impressive on these Orisa compositions. That, Again, they showed why they're undefeated. Delaware pushed them, made them lose their first map of the season, but they responded extremely well, and they showed why they're the undefeated team and why they're better.
And Arcadia, from the get-go, just were in control. They're in the driver's seat of the series, the tempo, everything. Like, I even doubted some of their compositional choices, but as soon as I saw something like Finlay on that Lucio, Pip pulling out the Pharah, and Aruda. If I had to pick an MVP for this series, 1000% would be this player right here. Made so much difference for this team and just those fights. The reason Arcadia were initiating, the reason that they were getting these first eliminations, most of the time had to do with Aruda. We saw Delaware come back somewhat on dive. They looked more confident in their decision making, as you said, Ray, but we just never got that same glimpse after we moved back to the Orisa comps.
Aruda and Saving Joe were the two main players on this team. It was Aruda finding opening picks. I mean, they won Nepal because of Aruda, and I think they won Cerebos because of Aruda, and partially Saving Joe. Like, it was absolute big-time playmaking, big-time opening pick finding, and then big-time antidotes coming from Saving Joe. I think those were the big reasons why Arcadia was able to find the victory.
I can see why this team is undefeated. They were put to a test today. Yes, you lose out on your perfect map record, but if anything, less pressure for perfection going forwards. You still have an undefeated record and have proved yourself to be one of the strongest within NECC's Division II levels of competition. We know that the University of Delaware can fight towards the top, and they did show us today that they have a ton of talent on their roster. When it all came down to it, Arcadia really showcased what it looks like to play as a team, as a unit, and overall gave Aruda the room to pop off and really just show off for the entire day today.
So congratulations to Arcadia, and for the Blue Hens, keep the heads up high. Was another talented team that you faced, and I still think you got a good shot of making playoffs in your division. You've gotten a lot of your hard teams out of the way, and it's a lot of great learning lessons for you guys to grow as a team. For us, we're going to take it to a break for about 30-ish minutes. We got one more match for you guys. It will be, once again, the Redbirds Academy, baby, going up against UCI, who we have not seen a whole lot of so far on stream this semester. So we'll get a great glimpse of what they are able to do after we come back from this break.
What do you make of this up here? Just showed up in the yard a couple days ago.
Has a dog been digging in here?
I don't think so, dude. That goes way down in there. Seriously, did you just lose your meat stick?
Yeah.
Oh, no. There's something in there, dude. Just leave it.
Are you kidding me?
We'll just head to the house. Just leave it.
The hell with that.
Oh! Yeah. There's something in there.
Want one?
Thank you.
Mm-hmm. It was worth it.
Welcome back to our NECC Week 5 broadcast. We just wrapped up our Division 2 game for the evening. It was Delaware who ended up falling to the continuously undefeated Arcadia for their matchup. And now the time has come for us to go up to that Division 1 game we've all been waiting for. I'm, of course, Tiny Shiny with a brand new face door joining me on the desk here today. Are you ready for some collegiate Overwatch?
Brand new's fun. I feel like the old man, like, coming back. My hair's growing, like, down to my shoulders. I'm just like, all I'm missing are the grays. But yeah, I'm ready for this. This should be a lot of fun. We got two good teams coming up. And honestly, as much as I think there are predictions out there for this, I'm pretty excited to see how this goes. I think ISU has an opportunity to punch up here and really deliver a fun match.
Yeah, it will be ISU Academy taking on UCI's roster. And the interesting about this is, Dor, we alternate casting weeks here at with NECC, right? Ray and I have done weeks 1, 3, and 5, and every single week we have had ISU Academy on broadcast. So far, they have gone Game 5 both weeks, right? So, is this going to be Game 5?
Wait, no. You can't just tell me they went Game 5. Did they go Game 5 and win? Do they have that dog in them? Are they finishers? They won the last one? Okay.
Yeah.
1-1?
Yeah, they did win the last one. Did lose 3-0 to Winthrop last week, but that is Winthrop, so we can go ahead, wipe the slate clean. You're going against a UCI team that we haven't really had too much of a glimpse at so far this year, yet they've been easily ranked within the top 6-7 teams in collegiate nationally. So a pretty big deal to have them on the broadcast here, and certainly a test for ISU Academy.
Yeah, historically a very good Overwatch team, but a very good esports program in general. That's not to say that ISU isn't, though. While this may not be the premier team that we kind of expect coming from Redbirds. It still is a team with some teeth, as it is a prestigious program to come from, especially when it comes to that Overwatch scene. And so I think, yes, while they may not necessarily be expected to take on the likes of a UCI Esports, I think when you're talking about a Redbirds and you're talking about their academy team, you expect the best of the best. You expect them to be able to hang with some of these schools' first teams, and this is a big opportunity for them to punch up and do some real damage to a team that's looking to make a name for themselves in that upper echelon.
The tag of academy there, like, we can just ignore it in most cases. Like, this team is literally can only be an academy team to an Illinois State main varsity roster. Like, that is what you need to understand. This is the only situation that I'm aware of that we have a varsity roster and an academy roster within the same division. This rarely ever happens, and it's because this is a squad that can punch up. And as you look at these rosters, you're going to start to see why. Illinois State's Redbird Academy, anytime we've seen them come out so far, it's been Dr. Death, especially Vintage, who isn't listed on that starting lineup. It's actually Alu this time for a double flex DPS sort of look. We're used to seeing that hit scan prowess out of Vintage, but I'm assuming this is going to have to do something a little bit with that map pick as we look to that later.
Yeah, there's a good chance of it. Over on the other side, though, we do, of course, have to talk about UCI's very well-tenured roster over there of Psy, XCal, Rhino, KHD, and Otters. Pretty much all known names in the Overwatch scene, and in a big way. A lot of these people have been around for years and years and years and years, playing at some of the highest levels and winning some very big tournaments along the way. So when you talk about experience, this really is the roster to bring it, and they're going to bring it over to Ilios.
Personally, I'm really excited to see Rhino, in particular, finally coming of age into this roster as that tank player taking the reins over from Romani, who's been on UCI for such a long time. But as I said, Ilios, an interesting map pick, one that we don't get a whole lot in Collegiate, especially when you can literally pick from any map outside of the ones that are banned. So this tells us that we're definitely going for more of a dive angle for our first control map.
Yeah, certainly. And I have to say, look, I just got here like literally 10 minutes ago. Big fan of this map pick ban system that y'all got going on. I have been out petitioning for this for like the past like 3 or 4 years, and it's great to see it finally in another tournament. So yeah, that does get us to Ilios. They did ban that Samoa. The dive's still coming out, though, like you said. And I think the game plan here is to really just keep things dynamic for UCI, leverage a lot of that experience that they bring to the table, and try and play a game that isn't decided off of just one engagement.
You want to play this kind of multi-step, arguably a bit more complex style of gameplay. ISU Redbird Academy have showed us in the past that they can lean on this Winston. You can put a Ryze and a Lu likely on this Echo Tracer composition that UCI should be mirroring as we go out. And I think that's kind of the important thing to know is when we've seen a Lu in the past, only for like 2 maps or so, to come in those few instances where hit scan isn't always the answer. And I'm really excited to see what they can bring toward ISU Redbird Academy in this matchup. Yeah,
I mean, I'm already pretty excited about what I'm seeing. I love this little Echo tech. This is arguably the best Echo map in the game, or at least one of them. And especially when you know the other team's looking to play that Winston like you know Rhino is, I think it's a great pocket pick to put a ton of pressure on that front line.
Yep. All you gotta do, make sure that you are in line with your tank that you're going in when they are. Ryze spots both Otters and KHD, a little bit vulnerable, but just chucks the stickies and gets on their way because it was actually Rhino who ended up committing first to Destiny, coming back to help peel for the team just a little bit longer. And this is kind of this slow-paced, multi-step setup thing that we're expecting.
Yeah, the initial neutral dive wins out so far for UCI as they take an early position, but size dive onto Destiny means that there's basically nothing left in the tank.
And that's what UCI were kind of waiting for. One person overstepped their bounds, not necessarily have the cooldowns to get away, and the cleanup train eventually will come on in, giving that first cap.
Question is, how big is the cleanup train? UCI certainly wants a little bit more than they can chew here. XCal gets out, but so far, good initial positioning. Like you said, that multi-step dive does come in nicely. It's about keeping that back line and the front line alive, though. Usually we're used to peeling for these Anas, we're used to peeling for these low HP supports, but when the Echoes are on the field, you have to keep your eyes on the Winston, and Rhino wasn't quite careful enough last fight. Let's see if he can be this time.
Yeah, ISU Redbird Academy just wanted to get their support set up on the high ground. It's actually Rhino wasn't careful, got hit with a sleep dart.
How is he alive?
So he shouldn't be. He straight up shouldn't be, Dor. That is insane beyond KHD. Not like their hearts got to be racing. They're like, Rhino, you're giving me a heart attack, bud, and we're not even halfway through this first point. Like UCI certainly living on the edge. Thankfully, Rhino has 1,000 HP this time around. Will be able to pop that out. The dupe 2 onto this high ground. Basically, this is just Chombo. You are not allowed to exist. The rally health is simply too much for them to handle. Has to give Rhino a nano boost just to finish off the Brig, and eventually ISU Redbird Academy have no choice but to try to regroup while Destiny attempts to do the same to UCI's backline.
Yeah, that sustain is brutal for UCI. Primal into the Nano I mean, it lasts years practically, and being the second team to pop it, ISU just don't quite have the firearms to deal with what came at them. Destiny's going to come in and try and lay a little bit on point here. Maybe they can build something off the back of this pick.
It's close to getting a point cap, but Sai comes back with Rhino, and Destiny has no choice but to pull back. This is reaching 90%. ISU Redbird Academy will have one more swing at this point, and really only a duplicate to do it. UCI are in much better positioning in terms of their supports. There's no easy window to get in onto this objective, so eventually ISU Redbird Academy push themselves in. Dr. Death is already naded. You can't get that full support that is needed towards the point. And there's that duplicate from Arise we've been talking about. 2 Wintons on the battlefield. Whole lot of monkey business, but slightly less. NECC actually burns through Arise rather quickly, and it's just ISU Redbird Academy figuring out who can touch next, wanting a win Connets and Lou to give it to them. Otters is blown to bits.
Otters is down, but KHD is completely uncontested right now, and that's your big problem dealing with this, is that you can't spend time going over to get the Ana because all of your pressure needs to be on the point, so they're forced to throw bodies at this. But when an Ana's free farming like that, there's the nade. It's gonna be that killer touch that UCI need to finish this thing off.
But it's really only Alu right now able to contest the objective. Destiny stalled it out long enough. You just don't have the damage to necessarily take down any target. It's just a game of trying to survive as long as you can, but UCI, we're already way too far ahead for the Redbirds to make any form of comeback here on Lighthouse.
That's actually really kind of funny timing from UCI. Redbird's got a pick in between the previous fights on the Ana that sent her back to spawn, and she wasn't quite there at the start of the fight. So at the start of the fight, they weren't able to dive the Ana, and so they're forced to a point, but then the Ana arrives at the fight like 5-6 seconds late, but at that time, at that point you can't dive her because you have to contest the point. So yeah, really tough last fight for Redbird's Academy, but that's not to say they haven't put up a fight in this. Positionally, they've been a little outmatched, but some of their dives have found purchase. Rhino did get caught out initially, but so far, UCI have done a great job of cleaning it up, and it's going to be no changes across the board here as they try and run it back for a map 2.
Well, plays relatively similarly to Lighthouse. The only difference is players are a little bit more crunched up in these corners, so things like sticky bombs or even just Destiny or Rhino jumping in can be a lot more deadly if you're not careful about that positioning, which, as I said, Dork, UCI looks to be a lot better in that from the starting of Lighthouse, so it's really to see what ISU Redbird Academy can pull out differently here.
Pretty passive play, though, across the board. Excal wants a little more dip on their chip, but maybe gets a little more than they can chew. Duel out, recall gone. This is going to be a delicate contest as the health bars get lower.
Excal hunting for a rise. It's the flight to get out of any line of danger, and there's that dive in from Destiny. Pressure onto Otters, but KHD is just waiting in the wing. It's things like these bio-nades, those timings need to be a little bit better. Dr. Death just came in a tad bit too late, where Destiny had to get out, and Rhino is straight back into the action. Grabs Chombo. There's a second pick from Arise, and it'll be UCI starting off pretty strong here on Well.
And that's where that tank experience really comes in. The years on this team are beginning to show, because that was a long, extended neutral game, but Rhino just found exactly the right pressure point to go and put that finger into. Now, though, they want more. They want those spawn kills, and Dr. Death is going to eat them. This is going to be a lot more ultimate charge, though, being fed over to UCI, and that could be deadly in the coming fights.
I mean, they're just chasing him into the spawns. And Lou at least gets the pulse bomb onto Otters. At this point, you just don't really have the numbers to make much of it. Just make sure UCI just can't straight up disrespect you.
UCI do have to back off. They lost 1 or 2, so they're on spawns as well. They will be outnumbered if they decide to stay. But as they back up, you begin to look at the ultimates, and Redbird Academy do have a big advantage in one thing, and that's the nano boost. They need to be proactive with it, find an early win here before Otters and KHD can get those ults up.
Dr. Death is particularly strong when it comes to this. Ana, I'm used to seeing massive nades from him. Hasn't found the angles quite yet, but knows how to initiate, except for Destiny can't find the players. Eventually does around the corner.
So sad.
But the whisk shot, you needed this nano nano boost to work out, but Destiny was just in the wrong place at the wrong time. UCI, it's like they read the playbook of the ISU Redbirds Academy, and it's already too late. Rhino and Psy found their way towards their vulnerable underbelly. It'll be another UCI fight win.
That was a really depressing Winston POV. Yeah. I watched the whole nano burn away without a tick of damage being done. UCI now careen over 70% with plenty of ultimates still in their back pockets. That nano boost really the trump card in all this. Excal, though, would love a one-on-one win. It really feels like they want to gap ALU here, but it'll have to be the ultimates to take them over the line. It doesn't seem like there's much in the way unless ALU can pull out a miracle shot.
And that's a terrible timing for ISU Redbirds. You're reaching last fight, and you're really not going to have a rise back for this engage. Massive Bionade forces the recall out, and Rhino's just in there like swimwear. The supports have been tickled to death, and UCI have made sure that the Redbird Academy does not have a solid touch left. It's really only Destiny. The one last leg for the Redbird Academy is UCI are going to go ahead and shut out Ilios. By the looks of it, Door, 200-0.
Yeah, and it's weird how few moments were required to do that. It just goes to show how efficient this UCI team is in spotting out their win conditions. But if you look at just that point alone, they had to win 3 critical moments. The first was Rhino finding that pressure point in the first fight, winning that neutral game. It's really just experience when the fights get that long that tell you when and where to go. It's a feel thing more than anything, and Rhino spots it out perfectly. Following that, the spawn hold puts them up an ultimate charge, and then they managed to peel away the entire nano boost, which was the one chance that ISU really had to get back in the point. And after those 3 minuscule moments were gone, the entire point's basically over for UCI. Redbirds don't stand a chance after that. And so that's really, to me, the mark of what is such a great team here, is knowing exactly when the critical moments are so they can take full advantage and reduce the number of chances ISU have to actually get back into this game.
UCI knew exactly what they were doing when this map was picked. Like, you're putting all 5 players on their best heroes. Like, you pick up Rhino with the intention of putting him on wrist because you know he's pretty dang good at it. Excal dominated in that Tracer 1v1, and overall, their macro understanding of how they're rotating around this composition, finding those critical moments as you were just talking about. UCI, you pick Ilios solely to play dive. There's not another control map that it does, and that's where that pick ban system, Door, can really affect the outcome of these series.
Yeah, I mean, if they ban that, I don't know if Samoa was necessarily a targeted ban towards them or a discomfort ban for Redbirds. You never really know, especially when the build of map selection is kind of this young. Hybrid Escort, though, is the kind of next selection for them. Do they want to go something brawlier? My instincts kind of tell me yes, but the options certainly aren't limited.
No, this is the biggest choice that you have in for the entire rest of the series, really. You get to choose whether it's Hybrid Escort. You will, of course, have to play the other one later on. Your UCI will get a single ban, and from there, it's free reign for ISU Academy. In the past, interestingly enough, they have elected to go with Blizzard World. Why? They like to play that dive, and they like to put that Winston out. It didn't work just now, so you want to change it up a little bit. It is a confirmed escort selection, so that will mean, typically, Door, those aren't your most brawly maps that you're going to find.
I'm thinking a lot about Shambali. That's like the
Shambali
one thing that I'm thinking in the back pocket that they could really want. There is a ban, and there it is. Oh, I'm so good at my job. I'm so good at my job. UCI ban Shambali. Oh my God, dude. I'm not even rusty. I'm not even rusty, Shiny.
Not at all. Not even close. Okay, you just read the playbook right there. I gotta give it to you. But what do you do now? Because I'd imagine that's what ISU Academy would have.
That was
picked.
definitely
Surely.
the hope.
Like, what do you do now? Like, you could maybe show us the Reinhardt on the reworked Dorado. You know, with the elevator and the stairs. Make it happen. Honestly, give us something else. No, Dor, that would be insane to do something like that. Apparently, because we're gonna go to the most dive map of them all in Gibraltar.
Gibraltar certainly, a choice. It's not like there was really a great one after Shambali. I would have loved to see Brawlrado, the new version. Honestly, I love the changes. I love the changes so much. That was a great map rework. You've done it, Blizzard. You've done it, I'd say again, but it doesn't happen often. But great job on that one. Watchpoint Gibraltar, though, not too many options in terms of ways to take on this high ground that are not the traditional dive. What you run alongside it, though, might change. Maybe if that echoes off the table, which it probably will be for Gibraltar. They think they can get around a little bit more easily, but by and large, I think the second Shambali was gone, it was like, wait a minute, we forgot they had a ban. And to be fair, like, Redbirds did have to make the read, which it's not exactly the hardest read, because I made it. That should tell you something.
You gotta give yourself some credit, Dor. Oh. Hey, what we did kind of expect, though, is ISU Academy did pick Gibraltar the last 2 times we've had them on stream. Or I don't know if they necessarily picked it, but that's what they played the last 2 times that they were on stream. And they will be bringing Vintage back in. Vintage, from what we know, is a hard hit scan player. Literally have not seen him play anything else other than Ashe, Widowmaker, and Cassidy. Not even Tracer from this guy. Like, it is strict hard hit scan, and he's pretty dang good at it if you can get him to the room to do so. What does scare me is Dor, Echo is pretty reasonable to play on here. There's a couple teams that have been doing that as of late, like even in our last series, for example. If you wanted to stick Psy back on that hero,
it
give
certainly
KHD more of this here, like, I don't think USI are necessarily crying in a corner about this map pick.
No, not at all. And yeah, it's back to the Echo. The Echo for, I mean, God knows how long, has been a pocket pick for Psy, and Psy's played it even outside of when we have had typical Echo metas, and if we saw it work once, it will almost certainly work again. ISU, I don't think, want to do it on their attacking side. Vintage is, you know, teasing a Widowmaker, but we do not expect that to stay.
Not quite. Perhaps looking for a first shot, but after looking an Echo and a Tracer between the eyeballs, can't imagine that is going to be your go-to operation. And UCI are just going to look to run back what they did on Ilios. And I am very excited to see this this kind of positional masterclass that they've been putting on so far, continuing on Gibraltar.
Yeah, so let's set the stakes here. ISU, their goal on the attacking side, there's kind of one way that's been determined to play this map, and that's your Winston neutrals high ground and tries to build up nano boost for your Ana first, while your Tracer tries to escort that cart as far as she can, dueling out the other Tracer, forcing her back and building up the meters that you need to get underneath that bridge. One of the 2 things can break, the Tracer or the Winston with the nano. It's just a question of which, and keeping things in balance. You don't often see early picks in here.
I was like, made onto KHD, and Destiny is right there to jump on it. The sleep dart, taking a little bit of a nap and trying to get back to the brig. KHD just that. Sport's in a bit of a pickle, but it's not the worst position until Otters drops down. Everyone's okay unless your name is XCal. Rather scrappy from the start. ISU Academy certainly confused UCI on that play.
Yeah, it's not often you see the ports go down first, but to be honest, the thing that broke the camel's back there was an anti-nade from Dr. Death that managed to catch both of the supports behind this cover on the high ground, and from there was kind of a positional collapse for UCI, who didn't have the health bars or really the room to stabilize them. Now, though, they'll try and put a stop to this cart while ISU take that space that they've so rightfully earned.
Looking at about most of the way through the underpass, typically the Tracer's job is to just force that payload, as you were talking about. Your normal watch point Gibraltar sort of shenanigans. Rise very close to this pulse bomb in comparison to UCI right now. That's a biodetable support! Massive play out of Dr. Death. Destiny leaped on the opportunity, but so does Rhino. Those nano boosts are a win condition for this team, especially with how quickly KHC build it up. It's just a matter of time, though. Rise pulse bomb goes a little bit wide. You're running out of ways to make this happen. Dr. Death can set ISU Academy up great before KHD grits back, but they waited a little bit too long to make a difference.
This should be a win for ISU. They were the ones that took down the Ana. The Ana for Brig trade is not worth it for the team that loses their Ana, and now with the nano boost to continue to pressure this cart forward, it's kind of a miracle UCI have even managed to stabilize in this position, but they'll do a little bit more than that. Exhale lands a pulse bomb. Rhino, the primal rage into the back line. He knows he's done more than enough, peels back to help with that back line, and begins to hold the space as that timer ticks ever further down.
It was that slight moment of hesitation from ISU Redbird Academy. It just looked like all the cards were in their favor, but they went back to grab healing instead of using the nano, instead of popping the primal in that exact moment, and it came back to cost them. Rhino came back and is still here. Sai built up the duplicate in that short amount of time, even though it's not going to last very long at all. This payload has certainly made a stop, and the ISU have to fight for that positioning all over again.
And I mean, you just need a raw pick. There's not much else that's going to get you through this fight. Yeah, Rally will make it last longer, but you need some good aim from Arise and Vintage if you want to make this work. Destiny, you have to pressure out that back line. A good headshot onto Rhino does open up the opportunity for a pick, but Rhino just holds the Tesla cannon in his face.
I can tell Venture's just like, heals, Chombo, heals, but it's like, there's a shield there. It can't necessarily help you on that one, and ISU Redbird Academy, they're kind of grasping at straws at this point. They're gonna have one more good chance to get this payload through.
Yeah, especially when ultimates are off the table. This is where you expect UCI to really show their prowess on this map. Now that KHD and Otters have an extremely safe place to set up towards the back of this point, a place where you would normally expect to try and snowball through as opposed to get held at. It's an even tougher position, an even tougher prospect for Redbird Academy. But they've got another nano boost, another chance to pick up some kills on that back line, and it needs to be impactful.
What's important here is the Redbird Academy supports a move towards the server room, but that's a nano to Echo. Sai is hunting them down. The peel from Destiny is enough to deter the Echo for the time being, resetting with the supports, but you only have 10 seconds remaining, and both supports, they're antied again. Here's the chance to strike. It's Dr. Death, but no, the effect wears off. Destiny can't get up there in time, and UCI Esports, they're just looking good. At least it's Teletone. No! It was looking to ISU. That was their shot door. It was right there. They just forgot the most important thing in the game.
Otters' whip shot is going to be in Destiny's nightmares tonight. That has been so brutal. I don't think I've seen a single one blocked with the bubble. Not one. It has been such a rough engagement. And, you know, you hate to beat up on it, but that's 0 for 3 on Nano Monkeys. For Destiny, it's just been a struggle, and yeah, there's not much diving in alongside him in this circumstance because, yeah, it's high ground. The Tracer can't get there. You know, the Widowmaker's off in Narnia, but still, when you needed that play as well, getting knocked off in that time, that force to recommit into it is what meant that they didn't have a tank on the cart.
Now, Gibraltar door, at least in my head, is like 5D chess. Like, half of this map is just playing your positioning. Right, there's not a lot of, like, fighting, deaths, or skirmishes necessarily happening. You're just trying to outmatch your opponent and how long it takes them to get their supports into locations. You have LOS, getting a Widowmaker site, like whatever that might be. ISU Redbird Academy, they found themselves getting slowed down by UCI Esports and catching them on those vulnerable rotations. Like, again, UCI are on their most comfortable heroes for literally every single role right now, and this is going to be a very tall task to hold them at the first point.
Vintage staying on the Widowmaker. Decides they want to make a big impact in this one. Sai swaps over to the Ashe. No more Echo for now. All it takes is one, maybe two good fights from UCI to put the final nail in the coffin here on Gibraltar.
It's not going to take much, but if we've seen anything about Gibraltar, this map really can be found in just a flash, just a blink, one pick. Realistically,
they can't let this cart progress like this. It's a one-fight game now.
Yeah, you just let it move all the way through. Arise didn't opt to contest until it was too late. Sai, again, does stay in the low ground too long, so a bit of a bone thrown to ISU, you could say, but this is what you're worried about. You're so focused on the cart that the supports got jumped on. Otter somehow got close enough to smack him with the mace a couple of times, and UCI, they're on the move. Rhino's chasing down these last couple of staggers. All it takes is someone to get on this payload.
That should be it. I don't see a way you get into recontest here, at least with any amount of ease. Is there somebody in the back line that they're waiting for? My bit rate's a little down, but it seems like they've got some ghosts haunting them. Inevitably, though, ISU do come back up on that high ground, and they need to be able to hold this if they want to win.
Rhino's already got Primal Rage. Like, he could just go up there and stuff the supports in a box, and it's just GG's, you're done. Trade out for the hit scans, sure. Destiny does jump onto the back line. That's not a terrible sort of situation. It wasn't really like Rhino could make that play. Still goes for this Primal Rage, though. All right, Dr. Death, you just got pummeled into a corner, and it seems that Chombo is going to make a similar fate. We thought ISU Redbird Academy had a chance. It was close. They definitely gave it their best shot here. Rise another pick with the Pulse Bomb. It just Lonely Winton from Destiny has to use this Primal Rage as long as he can to stall it out for hopes some sort of reinforcements. Dr. Death does have a nano boost. Put that on the Winston. You can live even longer. Unfortunately, they hit the deck, and the nano boost has to go instead onto the Tracer. Arise fighting back-to-back with their own rallied Brig, and these trades actually relatively even. UCI Esports have yet to really fully regroup, and Vintage now has a second pick on the Widow. Redbird Academy, I'm sorry, they're not done yet.
That shouldn't have happened. I don't know if Vintage is alive. That's the real question I have right now. Finally, there we go.
Cart.
Rhino picks up a nano. No, they can't let it go both ways.
Not again. Please not again. I beg you. Rhino's still... I don't know why Rhino's still in there. They don't really have LOS on either of the supports.
No one's killing him, that's why.
Back. No. No! ISU Academy, you can't do that a second. They just pulled out this incredible clutch play to keep them in the game, and then they just get off the cart. Like, my heart.
Yeah, you're like, why is Rhino still there? It's because nobody's telling him not to be. Yeah, and it's a tough one too, because I mean, you look at plays like this, and sometimes Rhino does just have to remind us that he is in fact that guy. But in moments like that, where they get that recontest, the entire time UCI have free reign over the map, Destiny's just pinned to the cart. I mean, it's a similar tale to what we saw on Elio's Lighthouse, right? Where they're forced to contest the point instead of contesting the supports. And so Rhino really did just get a lot of free reign there, just due to the objective pressure that they generated from getting such an early hold. And I mean, they really did make their own bed, but it's moments like that Nano, where they're being forced to lie in it. And I think there was maybe 2 critical moments in this entire map. We talked about how few UCI was able to get it down to in the previous map. I think it was only 2. Last time it was 3. In this one, it was the first Nano from Destiny that they made completely whiff on a disengage through the point A gates, and then the C9, and that was kind of it. The map was over after that.
I honestly, Dor, I'm looking at Rhino. The way he's commanding space on this Winston is just insane. And he's only a freshman this year. He's coming in after having years of experience within contenders, only 18 years old, now bringing his talent to collegiate and fitting in so quickly with this UCI roster.
God, Rhino's 18, dude.
Oh,
Rhino's 18?
Yeah.
Ah, Rhino can drive!
He can. He can certainly drive. He was driving the payload, I can tell you that much.
Yeah, that he was. Man, some things just really... I'm not even that old, man, but God, that makes you feel old.
Back in the contenders days when Rhino was still young. I mean, he's still young, but...
I remember when Rhino was young, but nevertheless, yeah. A strong launch point Gibraltar showing, and yeah, Rhino certainly was in the driver's seat. I gotta give some credit over on the other side, though. There was some serious stuff being put up by Dr. Death. On virtually every single one of these maps, Dr. Death has been kind of a force of nature. And that's really hard because Rhino has been on Dr. Death basically 24/7, right? I watched Dr. Death throw their life on the line 2-3 times on Gibraltar alone to try and get outside of a bubble to just throw a Hail Mary anti-nade. Most of them were hitting, to be quite honest, which is a miracle considering the pressure that was being put on them. So credit where it's due. It's been great on a play, but it hasn't been enough to get him over the line. Not quite yet. They've got one more map to do that, though, Tiny.
Yeah, ISU Academy, they picked Gibraltar for Dr. Death, for Vintage. Didn't work out exactly the way that they wanted, but, as you said, one more map for them to turn around this series and potentially get another win under their belts this season. We're going to go ahead and continue that after a quick break, so don't go anywhere, people. We'll see you back for some more Overwatch.
Oh man, this is incredible.
Oh, wow.
Huh?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It is pretty cool. Hey man, grab me a meat stick. I think I can reach it if I just a little more. Just let me go a little. I can't. Just a little more. I almost got it. Careful! Oh God! No, come on, just reach. Just grab my hand. I can't hold. Grab my hand.
Give me the meat stick. This other hand's closer. The one with the stick is... Oh!
Our night of NECC Overwatch continues right here. We have made it through the first two maps of our Division 1 matchup, and it is UCI who strongly leads the way with a 2-0 up. Well, really, just lead. I don't want to call it quite a stomping. ISU Academy has certainly done their part in putting up a fight. Just the clean overall macro understanding of how to play an Overwatch dive composition. It's UCI's bread and butter. They haven't really been given a reason otherwise to get shut down so far.
No, and I think this is like the perfect display of kind of just levels. Like, you know, when people say, there's levels to this, there's levels to this. Fundamentally, ISU haven't done anything wrong. They've approached every single one of these maps with the exact right game plan, with understanding the map, understanding how you need to attack it, understanding where your priorities lie, how the neutral should go. Gibraltar was a perfect example. They came in trying to build the nano, trying to attack that high ground while the tracer pushes underneath. They did everything right. They got a little bit of pressure, and they continued to attack correctly into a UCI that was, again, following the game plan for the map, but it's levels to this. It's the small understandings of the disengagements. It's the small bits in the neutral where Rhino is pulling out positional advantage for his team. It's stuff like that where you really begin to see, okay, wait a minute, there is more than just understanding how this is supposed to go, which is, I think, saying a lot, because ISU does show extreme, and competence is an understatement here, extreme competence on all the maps that we've seen them on. It's just they're going up against a UCI.
Put them against another team on dive, and we surely see them fly with amazing colors and showcases. We know what this team is capable of, and had them on stream several times. There's not really a doubt in our minds in terms of their skill as a team. It just seems that UCI is on a completely different level. They haven't dropped a series this season, let alone the map. They haven't dropped a map this season, maintaining that perfect record, and they're just one map away from doing that. Esperanza is ISU's final selection of the series. Should they continue to go on, it'll all be UCI in control from here.
Yeah, in Esperanza, okay, let's look at it, right? NQS was the ban, which, fair, Swiss cheese map. I'm not, if it leaves a lot of stuff out on the field in terms of what can be run, what can be done, and kind of the chaos that can go on. So I understand that ban. Bringing it down, though, to the remaining 2 maps, Esperanza is a curious choice here for ISU. It's traditionally the more dive-oriented of the 2 pool. Coliseo not really offering that much, but sometimes teams just hate Coliseo, and that happens a lot. This turns into like a two map type when some teams are on the field. And that may have been the case now because they're almost certainly going to run this dive matchup back, at least as far as I understand. There's always the chance. We've seen teams run the Junker Queen. We've seen teams run the Ramatra on this map. I'm going to be completely honest, though. In a meta where Winston can be played, I think Winston is always optimal on this map. His ability and his availability to get to and from that high ground, especially when domineering a point cap. The first team to get the point cap when you're running Winston v. Winston on this map has such a stranglehold over the rest of the game due to the Winston's ability to completely dominate both peel and dive from that high ground initially. So I'm looking at the first engagement to really spot out an advantage, but Rhino wants to swap things up.
We get a bit of a zoo going on here. The hamster making an appearance for Rhino, and I don't hate this. The Wrecking Ball has found a little bit more prevalence lately in higher levels of play. If you're able to execute off of these pile drives, Rhino can roll through and disrupt productively, along with some Discord Orbs of KHD. UCI have the makings of success, but the key thing to note here, Dor, it's so hard to pull off these timings because they're short, right? You have mere frames that you have to work with when the pile drives are happening, when the roll-throughs happen, and you always need to be ready to react because ISU Redwood Academy, all the meanwhile, as we've seen so far, are going to be looking for the backline of UCI.
Yeah, but you trust UCI have the coordination to pull off those dives. What I'm looking at is really on Redbirds. They need to not get overwhelmed. There's going to be attacks coming from a lot of angles, just like now. Arise dropping low, the Winston there to help, a dive onto the back line. They're there to help out with that too. And it's really just keeping all of these balls up in the air, making sure you're juggling the pressure from UCI appropriately.
Really, it's just a matter of who can not get lost in the sauce, essentially, what both these teams have been doing. UCI hasn't really let that happen so far. With everyone playing so far back and isolated, in a way, it's hard to catch somebody out. And this is why on push in particular with these compositions, you're going to go 90 plus seconds without there being a real elimination. Of course, as I say that, Arise will be the first to go down. Dr. That's and Chombo are also found out with that pile drive combo as we were talking about. And this is going to be UCI getting the move on. Okay.
Ale, you got there one. Yeah. No, now it's tough, though. You got to defend this first point. Like I said, in the dive-oriented matchup, it's so much more difficult to attack into this high ground. KHG is going to be a menace from up here, and getting on top of them is much easier said than done, especially in the face of Mines, Transcendence, these insurance cards that just came up for UCI.
Yeah, it's going to be very difficult for ISU Redbird Academy to get back, not to mention the positioning that the team now has. That is a bio-nade chucked in. Otters is hit, and you don't have the support from an Ana this time. It's just the whip shots. Destiny cannot beat the executions.
It's not even the whip shot, it's just the Zen kick. It's just
the Zen kick?
It's just the Zen
oh
kick.
my gosh.
Dude, Destiny is having like the worst time getting knocked off everything. Rhino barely manages to roll through with enough pressure. Gets the mines out early. Sai tries to follow up, but a clever bubble from Destiny will clear most of it. The rally gives them the sustain. They need to get through this, and notably, they don't give away that point in the midst of all this chaos. They do need to finish out the fight, though.
Chombo looks to be in a bit of danger. We'll stay up with the help of the supports, and the Winston bubble is placed and prevent UCI from capping this point. They did have to go for a brief reset. And
you can see just how Chombo has to play. You're fighting ghosts when you're playing into this comp. You just swing and you're probably going to hit something if you do a 360. And that case remains the same as UCI need to find a clean dive early into this fight before ISU get those ultimates up and going.
Will be the dupe onto the Genji, but Arise just getting denied between the snap kick and the whip shot. It can't get close enough. Likely won't even be able to charge up a Dragon Blade with that dupe. Just rather get in and get out, and guess who's dead? both the supports sent 6 feet under ISC Redbird Academy. They gotta make something happen now. You've already committed 2 ultimates into this fight, and it'd be a shame to go down, especially when UCI haven't had to use much else. There's a pulse bomb, another one from Malou. Has been very consistent with landing those so far. Unfortunately, you just don't have the backup to make it count.
Yeah, UCI find an early advantage, and this is kind of a note for Echo players, right? Sometimes your ultimate is a reduction in pressure. Yeah, it saves you, but when you swap the Genji, you just lose all of your damage pressure until you get Dragon Blade up, right? That's a long time, and UCI did a great job of taking advantage of that, engaging while they did have the damage surplus, and now they look to do the same.
Pile drive in. Rhino has mines, and especially with how close this point is from being capped, just putting the ult right here. The ISU Redbird Academy, they can't get the touch. It just guarantees it. So even if UCI end up losing this fight, they got what they came for in this checkpoint alone. XCal sticking to the shield. Chombo is A-OK, trying to regroup with Dr. Def. All the meanwhile, ISU Academy causing chaos within the backside. It's always so spread out, and these little skirmishes will keep happening. As that Destiny got knocked off into the mines. Oh, this poor Winston player.
We need to erase the Destiny POV from the annals of the internet after this. It's been a not fun game for this Winston player. And there's a swap over to ball. Honestly, I kind of like it. The whip shot, the kick, far less effective against this hero when you can come in and pile drive and ignore quite a bit of that.
Oh, the body block too. Almost got Rhino. Not quite what you needed. This does make sure that you're not really worried about getting cut off. You have a ton more uptime and speed for ISU Academy, and they can match what UCI are putting down.
Well, match is certainly a strong word, but they can try to.
They can try.
But again, the hard part's just getting up to this high ground, man. KHD has not been touched in eons. That's a nice sleep. Side might go 0 for 2 on the blades here. Does have to limp back home, but again, it's to an uncontested Zenyatta, and they got Rally out, so it's basically an even trade.
You take that. I mean, XCal's a pulse bomb onto Chombo's toes, and UCI, and they're just straight back into this. The robot hasn't even moved at all. ISU Redbird Academy haven't been able to pressure it, and you're just kind of getting shoved back at this point. The Transcendence to stay alive is nuts.
I love how I talked all that time about KHD being uncontested on the high ground, and the next clip is KHD in the front line.
Yeah.
It's kind of iconic, but this is certainly a chance for ISU to get it back. They've got an ultimate advantage. The sustain granted to them from Nano, Dupe, and Mines should be enough to kind of see them through virtually any of the pressure that UCI have to offer, but they cannot let themselves get picked.
Oh no! Dr. Death was way too close to that bots, and you lose out on one. Arise duplicates the Zenyatta now. Wants to show KHD what they can do with a couple of orbs, and it's what it does. It buys the space, it buys the time at the bare minimum, even if it's just jumping around for fun.
I'm not gonna say anything. Okay. Okay. ISU, how are you gonna get back into this? They still do have tools. ALU. I mean, go 3 for 3 on pulses, maybe? That's kind of what we need right about now. There's an ultimate advantage, but not for long before Otters and that rally come back up, at which point UCI will have the sustained advantage. You need an early win for ISU, but that is not it.
That is like worst case scenario right there. You needed Dr. Death for those nades. He's been so good at hitting them despite all the pressure he's under, and XCal finds a Lou with the pulse, so you don't even get that 3 for 3 stick that ISU Redbird Academy really needed.
Couple more chances left in this, though. 2:40 on the clock. What's the route back in for ISU? There's not a clear engagement here, and I think UCI know that as well. They're going to sit back, just defend this Brig, just defend this Zenyatta, and they do so valiantly. Eventually, the Discord overpowers all the pressure that ISU can put out.
Yeah, we're just seeing XCal, Rhino, KHD, they're on that same wavelength. We talked at the very start of this game, the 3 super players, if they can work together, this game is as good as done, and UCI are marching right towards ISU Redbird Academy's doors with the mines to block them off, the rally, the Transcendence. It seems that the Redbirds, they're out of options. It's only poetic for Destiny to get hit with this whip shot, with these stuns, the beatdown from Otters, and KHD never stops until the very end. Chombo is one more swing at it. Before that shall do it. UCI will maintain their undefeated record and move up to 5-0.
And with some style as well. I think this is the polish that you expect from a team that's this experienced. And it didn't feel like it necessarily, obviously they're well practiced, right? But a lot of it felt like it came very naturally to them. A lot of these were in neutral fight wins, not necessarily wins in execution. It was wins in decision making, wins in tempo, wins in patience that were picking them up fights. And for me, that really is just the mark of some very, very well tenured Overwatch players.
It's so easy in Overwatch to see like, ooh, red, go kill. Like, that's not what the top level of Overwatch is. It's this patience, this understanding of how the game is to play your split-second decision-making patience. Like, there's so many things that go into it beyond just taking these fights, and UCI have such an incredible understanding of what it looks like. And unfortunately for ISU Redbird Academy, a very strong squad in their own right, they just felt outmatched. The sheer level of experience that UCI have behind them this season is simply too much for most teams to handle.
Yeah, and we gave a lot of credit away, I think, to Rhino, rightfully so, for making a lot of space, but I got to give a massive shout out to that ISU backline. Considering how dynamic some of these games were with the positioning, especially when it came to that Gibraltar play where they needed to kind of disengage that nano perfectly, and they disengaged, what, like 4 or 5 nanos perfectly onto the Winston. It's that positioning that kind of picks up games and makes it extremely suffocating for the opposing side when you don't get that backline access. That fight that we saw at the tail end of Esperanza, right? Fighting for the health pack room where you just had the Brigands then sat up and they knew there weren't enough ultimates to really contest them or send any real threat in. So they sat there in Discord and pressured and pressured and pressured and knew when to take advantage of their composition and when to sit back and try and absorb that pressure. And at no point did it feel threatened. At no point did I feel like the Zenyatta is under any remote level of threat, say for maybe the one pulse bomb that went towards them. But that backline really was what sealed the deal for me. It was absolutely suffocating pressure coming in from back there.
Very impressive stuff from Otters and KHD today, and like, this is the UCI, the first look that most of us have gotten with them on a stream so far, and it goes to show that their high power rankings are not just for fun, not just for show. This is a incredibly strong team this year, and they're really yet to meet their match. ISU Redbird Academy still looking for another win throughout this season. You're still an Academy team in Division 1. You gotta be pretty darn happy about it and what they've been continuing to build. That's gonna go ahead and do it for both of them today, and for actually our entire week of esports matchups. That's gonna do it for our Overwatch, and you guys can go ahead, take a break, and go ahead and have a restful weekend. We'll see you back on Monday for some more NECC esports action. Thank you so much for joining us.